Okay guys, so I believe the story I got with these two, I don't even know if you can call this a zero turn, can you? It's a tricycle three-wheel deal with a steering wheel. I mean, I guess it would be considered a zero turn, but anyway, anywho, I think I recall the paperwork from the auction saying this one ran, but it didn't move. Anytime you see something like this on a skid at an auction yard, usually means it won't run, won't move. The way the boys can move it around easy. In any event, I think we're going to tackle this one first. This one here I don't care that much about. It's pretty well wore out. I think it might just end up being a parts machine. This one here, low hours, it's not in too bad a shape. I think we can steal some parts off this one for this one, because they're very, very similar. I'm going to I've been cooking this battery here and it seems to be alright. It seems to have taken a charge. I'm going to put this battery in this machine and see if it will run, and then find out what's going on, why it won't move. Okay, so before I bother changing batteries, I just got my big heavy duty one hooked up there. Well, I did discover that it didn't have any gas in it, so hopefully that had something to do with it. Well, let's see if it'll go. Okay, we're lit up. You gotta have the parking brake locked in. If you don't, it doesn't crank. Nothing. So it's kind of a funky affair. You push that down, lock that, it locks it. I guess the seat doesn't affect it, but alright, let's give it some choke. Took the parking brake off and it quit. So I guess that means that seat switch does work. Let's try that again. What's going on there, fellas? I don't know what that means. Alright, let's give that a try again here. Alright, so as soon as I release the parking brake to try and move forward or backwards, it quits. Now what does that mean, folks? Quite often, these seat switches aren't known to last very long. So, I wonder if it's not working right. You have to move a fair bit in there. Alright, let's try this again. I'm squeezing down tight on that switch to see if it'll help. seems to run decent, but I think we got something going on with one of these safeties here. As soon as I take that out of gear, or the parking brake off, it quits. So there's several different safeties on this. Every machine has different ones. Most of them have the seat one for sure. Most of them have that one so that you can't start it with the hydro engaged. But it may also have one on the PTO. I'm not sure. We're going to have to look into that. I'm sure that's what we've got going on here. As soon as I release that, it wants to quit. Okay. I wish we could get, this isn't very easy to work on. I wish we could get this in a better position, but it's actually a lot heavier than it looks, so it's not that easy to move. Well, hopefully you can see that. I'm going to try and get a light on the subject here. Right here, there's a little safety switch. So when the pedal's down and it's in the lock park position, it allows it to run. And when you release it, now that shouldn't kill the engine. That's very strange. That should just allow you to not allow you to start it. So something's up with that. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little green tie wrap there. Almost looks like somebody had maybe tied that switch in the closed position to bypass it, and that tie wrap slipped off perhaps. It's very odd, because that's only supposed to not allow you to start it. It shouldn't kill it. So something funky going on with that safety. And that's very common for machines that have all these safeties on them. A portion of it craps out and doesn't work right, and then, you know, they think, oh, bugger it, there's something wrong with it, to hell with it, and they throw it away and buy a new one. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie that in the closed position myself, just for the time being, to carry on with our troubleshooting here. Okay, so I removed that switch and I tie wrapped it into the run position or start position, just for now, and we'll deal with whatever problem that's causing at a later date. What I want to do now is fire this up and see if we can get it to move, because that's key here. If this transmission is buggered up somehow and it doesn't want to move, there's no sense in horsing around with that. So, no movement at all. I don't even hear whining or it even trying. I did see a bit of oil underneath. Maybe it doesn't have enough oil in it to work. Don't know. Something funny though. You try and engage the PTO and the engine quits also. So that tells me we've got a wiring issue. Seeing as how this switch kills it, which it should not, and that one does as well. That shouldn't be. It shouldn't be doing that. So we've got a bit of a wiring problem. However, it still doesn't want to move, which is more what I'm concerned with right now. We want to make sure this thing will move. All right. So just real quick there, I fired it up, and I did actually get it to go in reverse and get off the skid, and I didn't have the camera on, but I was able to back off the skid there, and there's quite a pile of oil there. Now it doesn't want to go forward or backwards. I'm wondering if it's not, I bet you it's low on oil. If that thing's been leaking, it's probably low on oil. It was pretty whiny when I backed it up, and it was kind of lunging a bit. I think perhaps we got an oil leak here somewhere. Anyway, it did move somewhat. So I think I'm going to have to investigate here where to, I don't know, it's pretty tricky to see in here. The engine sort of sits right on top of the hydrostatic transmission. I'm not sure where the oil, if there's a spot where you can put it. I'm going to have to look a little deeper into that and see if I can find out where to put that. Alright guys, so according to John Deere, I looked it up because I don't know, the engine oil and hydro oil are common. And it's hard, you probably won't see this on camera, but if you follow the pipework from the hydro transmission over to here, the dipstick goes there. So, I haven't experienced that one before, but okay. It was down, of course, because we do have a leak somewhere. So I did top it up. I don't know if I have enough. I may have to go to town and get some more oil. I don't know if I got enough. Now, of course, they tell you, use John Deere oil, which I'm not doing, because a little plastic can with a little John Deere thing on it doesn't mean anything. John Deere does not make their own oil. Anyway, enough of that. It would be nice if I could at least get this to move enough that I could go put it on the lift. That way we can investigate that leak a bit easier. I think we're gonna give that a shot. Let's give. So off camera, I was able to get it to move slightly. I don't see this button right here. That's your bypass valve. There's supposed to be a bracket on here that you can lock that down. And that allows the transmission to freewheel if you need to like push this thing or like tow it. And when pushing that down and operating the foot pedal, I got it to move. It was moving slow. I don't know, it almost feels like that valve's not seating or something and it's bypassing all the time. However, we do have a pretty serious oil leak. It's puking out everywhere here. I can't tell where it's coming from. It's down this side. And I think we're going to have to address that before we go a whole lot further. So I think I will now throw that battery in there. That way if I do get it to move, maybe I can just crawl along over here and get it over there and get it up on the lift where we can work on it a bit easier. See if we can figure out where this oil sadness is coming from. We better address that before we go too much further. Alright, we're struggling a bit here, friends. Finally got this. I got this up on the lift. I managed to limp it from where it was. Now you can see the puddle of oil that's here. Now I may have spilled a little, but I certainly didn't spill all of that. So something is definitely up. Anyway, I managed to get it to move a little under its own power. It wasn't right. Something's up there. Anyhow, beauty of it is it steers real nice. So I got it up there. I was able to use my little winch affair and pull it up on, because let me tell you, these do not push easy. It's actually quite heavy, heavier than it looks. Anyhow, now that it's here, I think the first thing I ought to do is take this off so that it doesn't end up all smashed to hell like that one. I'm going to take that off and put it somewhere safe. And I think maybe this side piece also, because this is where I think I see the leak, down in there. Because as you can see, this thing is very low to the ground. It's very difficult to see what's going on. Okay, the side panel's off. The fuel tank's just dangling there. And I don't see any oil dripping anywhere. So my assumption then is that it's only leaking when it's running. So I guess I'm going to have to fire this up and look and see if I can find anything. So there's what that, now that makes a bit more sense to me. Unitized power unit. So I think, as I said before, this hydrostatic transmission is integrated in with this engine. So it's a common oil reservoir. Now the engine is it's a Kawasaki engine. So I don't know if Kawasaki made that hydro as well or what. I always have been a bit of a Kawasaki fan. However, that could change after this project's over. All right. I'm going to start this thing, and alright guys, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see that, but it's getting out of that tube a little bit. It looks like an aluminum tube there. It looks like there's a little hole in it. You see it coming out of there every once in a while. There's oil all over the side of the crankcase there. Yeah, once it warmed up, I could see it spitting ever so slightly out that little aluminum tube. There's a little bit of a split in it or a hole or something there. That top of that case was clean. And I know the lighting is not so good, but see, there's a little puddle there inside that fin. That was not there when we started, and I could just see it wisping out of this. I could feel a little pinhole in it with my finger. So that's okay. That's a bummer. I imagine that. Can you just imagine what that tube is worth from John Deere? Oy, oy, oy. I hate to think what it would be worth. Huh. Okay. Well, I guess we're going to have to get it off anyway. And we'll get it off and we'll go from there, I guess. So the struggle and the sadness continue, folks. And I pretty much called this when I brought these two things home. So this one here had all the good body plastic, because most of it's plastic, as you noticed. And I thought, okay, maybe that's the one that I'll work on first, because it looked pretty reasonable. And as you saw a few clips ago, it runs cool, but it doesn't want to move. So I'm not too sure what that's about. We have a few issues here with this hydrostatic affair, and I'm not real sure why. However, this one over here that's all beat to hell runs and drives just fine. So this morning I got up pretty early thinking, if it's going to be humid today, I'll get something done before it gets too hot and the flies get real bad. And I got it to run. I had a bad key switch I took care of that. So I just cut a few wires and I got it to run. And I took it for a tour up the driveway. It was raining like crazy, so I wasn't able to record it. And there's no seat on it. I just kind of sat right there with the fuel cap in between my legs. So it was super sketchy. So I didn't record that. But anyway, it drives good. It seems like a solid machine. Now these two machines, now this is the reason I bought both of them, because the 525 and the 510 are basically the same machine, just this one has a wider cut and a couple more horsepower. So it's, I think, 17 horse as opposed to 14, what that is, but I think everything else is almost exactly identical. Those panels look the same. I think I've sort of made an executive decision here. I stripped all the panels off of this one because they're in relatively good shape. I think we're going to peel all this broken crap off of here and put it on here. My idea behind buying both, even though this one was really rough, was that I could maybe make one out of two. Neither one of them ran. I figured one was going to be a parts machine. I kind of figured it would be this one, but I don't think so now. This deck is actually in better condition, believe it or not, than this one. This one's got a big puncture here, and it looks like something went through it. It doesn't look like it's rotted. It looks like something, it rips it like a tear, you know. The paint's peeled off. That one's faded, but it's, you know, yellow fades in the sun no matter what you do. I think I'm going to use this as the parts machine because I'm not very confident in this hydrostatic transmission here. I'm a little nervous about that. Now I know this machine has less hours than the one over there, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I had a Cub Cadet that had around the same amount of hours as this did, and the hydrostatic transmission was ruined in it. If it's not taken care of, it won't last. So even though this one's beat up and has more hours, I think it's more solid. So we're going to put new body panels on it and make it more better. Because if there's one thing I've learned about John Deere people, and John Deere people are fairly loyal, but they're also pretty anal about fancy paint and how everything matches. So that's what we're up to right now. We're going to carry on. I'm going to strip a few more things off this and get it out of my road for now. I do want to investigate this further because I'm not familiar with it. It may not be something complicated. It may be something simple that I'm missing. So I'm going to use this as a guinea pig maybe to learn a little bit about this, because I'm really not familiar with this unitized power unit. I've never dealt with one of these before, so I'm going to use that as a teaching tool, since I'm going to strip most of this stuff off it anyway. In any case, I'm going to carry on stripping this thing down, and I'll get this sucker up where I can work on it a bit better. right, we made it. It was a little stressful. It didn't want to steer with me standing on the deck, which I guess makes sense now that I think about it. But anyway, we didn't break anything, we didn't hit anything, we're good. So, now, I can take all this busted plastic off. And when I have all that off, I'm going to sort out this wiring. You can see I've chopped it all apart, because those safety switches, they go from a safety switch to a relay, so that certain conditions have to be met before it'll allow you to either start it or it will kill the engine. So like if you fall off the seat or whatever, most of those don't last long. Quite often when I buy these old lawnmowers at different sales and from different people, that's what you find. It's just a matter of a few of the safeties weren't working and somebody got mad and gave up on it. So generally speaking, if I'm dealing with one of these that has safeties that aren't working, and that was the case with both of these machines, that was the reason they wouldn't run. I just delete the whole thing. And if I end up selling it to somebody, I always tell them this safety doesn't work, that's been deleted, blah, blah, blah. And 99.9% of the time, they're happy that that's the case. And that's just my personal way of doing it. If the safeties are working, I leave them. But if they're not, I completely delete it. It just creates confusion down the road. And that's just my personal way of doing it. So, once I get all this plastic off, I'm going to sort this wiring out, get rid of what I don't need, and wire a new key switch in here, and we'll be good to go. All right, looky here, guys. We are making some good headway. I have removed there's the two safety relays. Now look what I found. Look at this here. Ew. You know, suppose that was a bit of a problem. So there's two of them. I've removed them. So that's why there's a couple of cut-off wires here. Those, you turn the key on. The key switch powers the relays, and then the relays have to be satisfied by the different safety switches that are on the machine. And most machines have similar ones. However, some have more than others. It depends on how new it is. Anyways, as we discussed in earlier clips, those safety switches were buggered and causing trouble. So whenever that happens, I have a tendency to remove them, because it never goes away, the trouble, for some reason. Anyway, now we've got this thing back to plain Jane, basic. Turn the key on, start, stop, that's it. So as long as you're not an idiot, you can run this machine, no problem, and you can cut grass with it. Anyway, so what we're doing now, I'm taking my donor panels off of our donor machine and replacing the old crappy ones that were all broken. And that is a little tedious, so I'll bring you back when I get some of these panels on, and when I get this key switch and the electrical mounted, it'll make a little bit more sense to you. Like some of these wires hanging here don't make sense. This is for the hour meter, which it does work. I verified that it's working. And the switch with the PTO, I'm going to wire that. So I'm going to bring you back in a few minutes once I get a little further, and that should make a bit more sense when it's mounted in the proper location. All right, folks, check it out. So I had some visitors here, and I kind of got sidetracked a little bit. But I did get things back together, more or less. I'm not going to put the back cover on just yet, because it's kind of a stupid design, and it's very easy to hit something with it. and bust it, and I don't want to do that just yet while I'm trying this out. So I'm going to leave it off until I'm ready to send it down the road. One thing I did discover, this idler pulley in here was completely seized up. The bearing was seized in it. I think that's why it probably was throwing the belt off. Had this plastic pulley here, and this bearing is totally seized, all rusty and crappy. So, as luck would have it, our donor machine's deck had basically the same size pulley. The diameter was the same. It was a little bit of it was a steel, stamped steel one, a little different, but same size, so it did the same thing. So I stole it off of there, installed it on here, and she runs decent. I may need to clean the carb a little bit. It stumbles a little when it's idling, but anyway, it maybe just needs a good workout, like most things have been sitting for a long time. We are going to take this for a test run and see how it does. Alright guys, I would call that a success. It runs, it cuts, it drives, made it up the hill. The drive belt for the deck is pretty rough, but I don't know if I should look in to see about getting one maybe. I imagine that belt's probably about $100, and that would be aftermarket. From John Deere it would be probably $200. Anyway, now don't be fooled by the 510, because this is actually a 525, remember? We stole the panels off the 510. They're almost exactly the same machine. This one just has a bigger cut and a couple more horsepower, but they're basically exactly the same. The rear hood's over there for it. I'll put that on when I'm ready to kick it down the road, but for now I'm going to keep it off. All I really got to do now is maybe tidy up some of the wires that are left hanging, but that's about all. It is ready to go. It actually drives pretty nice, and it seems to cut pretty good. It's very quiet. I do like that. Now I realize I'm deaf, but it certainly seems quiet. I guess probably because the exhaust comes out here, so it's like behind you. It almost doesn't even seem like it's running. It doesn't seem like it's going to have enough power to do anything, but the governor kicks in and away she goes. It's pretty nice. You saw it spinning around out there. It turns on a dime, so I kind of like it. However, I don't really need it. I have already one. The oil was changed, if you can believe what the fella wrote on the filter. You can't see it, it's underneath. He wrote it on the filter and then tightened it up so you can't see it. But the oil was done at 280 hours or something like that, so it's only got about 10 hours on an oil change. Okay, folks. So we're a couple of days later now, and I just sent that John Deere 525 down the road. I just sold it, and I thought I'd break down on all what we did here and what it cost me and what I made. So I paid $400 a piece for those two machines, the 510 and the 525 John Deere. Both of them in inoperable condition. That seems to be roughly around what you're spending right now at an auction sale. That seems to be what they're going for, $400 or $500, even not running. So $400 a piece. Well, there's $800. I ended up needing one as a donor machine, as you saw. One had some transmission troubles, which turned out, it worked out well. I stole all the parts I needed from the one, put it on the other one. So I spent no extra money than the initial $800. And I just sold it for $1,800. So that took me about a day's work. You know, it went over the course of a couple of days because I was sidetracked with other things here and there, whatever. But if you add up all the time that I actually spent peeling all the things off the one to put on the other, get it running right, make sure it cut, this and that. Well, that's a lie. I did buy a belt for it, and that was $100, so I forgot about that. So $900. So $900, and I got $1,800 for it, so that's $900 I made on that sale. Now, had I been able to get both running and not had to use one as a parts machine, just think about what we would have done there. That could have been a lot more lucrative. You win some, you lose some. I still came out ahead. Alrighty folks, that's going to do it for this one. $900 profit for one day's work. Pretty good side hustle, I think. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later. Well, it's coffee break time, folks. And I don't know why this isn't working. All I need this thing to do . I don't know why it's not working. All I wanted to do was make a coffee, and it's not working. Guess I'm going to have to put that on the list too. Well, since the coffee maker crapped out, let's see what we got in here. Oh my sweet Jesus. Who put this crap, this